Imagine I put you in a room. Imagine this beautiful glass room, okay? And in the corner, there was this machine, a very simple machine that you had to maintain. And it created oxygen by drawing it in through a pipe and giving you oxygen. And if that machine ceased to work, in 3 minutes you would suffocate and die.
Yeah.
How much energy would you put into keeping that machine running beautifully, maintaining it?
Top shelf.
It'd probably be your top number one job, right?
Yeah.
Well, somewhere between 50 and 70% of the oxygen we breathe comes from the oceans.
Yeah.
So let's just take that for a moment. So let's just say there's that machine doing half to 3/4 of your air, right? You would still think you would do that, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's just one example of a disconnection that people don't realize. The oceans are truly the life support system of our planet.
This is Jeff Skult with Drops of Gold. I'm so honored on this episode of Drops of Gold to sit with Shawn Heinrichs, a true ocean alchemist, bringing us into our deeper inner world by seeing what's happening under the world that we live in. His incredible organization, Only One, is about protecting the ocean, because as we protect something, we revere it. I'm Jeff Skult. I have been on the healing and revealing journey, following my thread to my inner gold. My great honor in life is to sit with the golden ones and discover what they've released in terms of their past stuck stories, what they've revealed in terms of who they are anew, and within that, how we can each celebrate the art of living life golden. Welcome to Drops of Gold. Hey there, golden ones. This episode of Drops of Gold is powered by One Golden Thread, the regenerative nature fashion brand that I created from my mind's eye, that we can all live in regenerosity. Enjoy the program, and we've got a special code for you later on to share. You are golden. We are all connected, better together as one golden thread.
I'll do 3 for now. Do you feel that?
Yeah.
Do you feel the...
So it's how many psychosomatically, how many sips up are you taking? So
You do a full inhale.
Full inhale, then 2 sips,
And then top it off with 2 sips, like...
Yeah.
And you just feel this, like...
and then you hold it for
10 seconds.
10 seconds.
And then do a slow exhale, and you do like 10 times. And whenever you get inspired to do that, even doing that once a day, you'll increase your lung volume.
Can we hold it for 10.8 seconds?
Yeah.
108?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we? Shall we? Should we? We don't do shoulds. Are we rolling?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that we're rolling. Were we rolling when we were doing the sips up? All right. Well, it's always good to start a Drops of Gold with 11 or 10.8 seconds of receiving air, and then 2 sips, and then a full exhale.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Shawn Heinrichs, welcome to Drops of Gold.
Thank you, brother. So good to be here.
So happy to be here. Wow, what a blessing to get to know this benevolent creature that clearly has gills. I want to dive right in. And what is the deepest depth of truth that you know to be true, to be a universal truth?
Wow. It's a good, profound start to the morning. And probably the most important one. Probably the greatest depth of truth that I hold to be true is what I believe, the absolute truth that we are all one singularity. We are one. And any illusion of separation is just that. It's an illusion. You know, we have this... We're a spiritual being living in a physical sort of reality, and we often think of this abstract spiritual self as something tucked deep inside of our minds and our souls. But I fundamentally believe there is one soul. There's one song of the universe, And each of our beings are like little antennas poking into that source. And so just like when you listen on Spotify on your phone, the music isn't in your phone. The music is everywhere, and your phone's a transmitter or receiver for that song, and it's some particular station and a particular song and a particular frequency with a particular speaker. And we think that's us. But in reality, the us is that all, that unified, beautiful song, that one soul that we all share. And we just happen to have this little time, this little sprite in existence of physicality where we get to resonate in a very limited range to experience what is it like to just be this for a moment. And for some reason, because of that, we get really attached to that idea that that's us. But that's like saying one hair on my pinky is me and nothing else. I am the all, and there's a little hair there that's having this existence as a hair. Don't get caught up in it. Remember, really remember that we're all not even connected. We are one.
It's so powerful to meet there, because that's the set to that you and I truly meet, which is the truth, which is this notion that we are not apart from nature, that we are a part of nature. And one of the things that I discovered in my own path towards well-being was this illusion of separation that I was feeling with the natural world, that I was feeling with community, that I was feeling ultimately with myself, was this I almost call it not loneliness, but a loneliness, where I would originally seek change the world, type of endeavors back in the early 2000s to feel like I was part of something. And then I'd come home and I'd still feel lonely. And then I'd want to seek unity of community, and I'd white knuckle clutch it so tight because that's where I got my charge. And I'd come home and I'd feel like, well, why do I'm alone with my thoughts and I don't feel good. And I came to realize this notion that it does begin, well-being begins within. Well-being with the world begins within. I'd love to hear you speak to that, because it's so potent to hear, and I keep going back to this thing, as below so above. The lessons and the blessings that you rise to the surface from being such a beautiful underwater alchemist to invite us, as Hannah Mermaid says, we protect what we love. And you are such a beautiful protector and inviter and igniter to what's happening as below, so above. So I'd love for you to take us on a journey, and maybe to start with where it started for you. What was that first moment underwater, the ocean, where you said, this is me. This is me. For me, the sea is where I feel most free. Take us there.
It's going back quite a ways. I was born in Durban, South Africa. I don't have an accent anymore. I left when I was 7. And
can you roll into it if you on demand though, if you so chose?
Could roll into that experience.
The accent.
I'd be doing my South Africans a disservice.
Thank you. Okay.
Brew. Give me a little practice and I can do it.
Okay, no problem.
When I go there, it's easier.
Okay, good.
I grew up on as a child witnessing an ocean that barely exists anymore. When I was a child, I lived in Durban, and it's right on the KwaZulu-Natal coast on the east side of South Africa, and right below us is an area called the Wild Coast. It is an abundant ocean, and it still is, but it was like no other I'd ever witnessed. During the wintertime, you would have the migration of the sardines up the coastline. And the entire ocean for miles would turn black with like sardines pressed together, moving up the coastline in their migration. And following it was, one of the greatest movements of ocean biomass on Earth. You would have these thousands of dolphins coming in and corralling them and driving them closer to the shore, and hundreds and thousands of sharks underneath moving through like the shoals, creating these pockets, like almost like oil moving through water, separating them. And then from above, you would have these squadrons of Cape Gannets, again in the thousands, pouring down like machine guns, firing into the water, diving in. And then as a backdrop, you would have the migration of the humpback whales leaping into the air. So you can imagine as a child, literally standing on the beach, witnessing this type of biomass, abundance that is beyond comprehension. And my understanding of the oceans was this incredibly rich, diverse, inexhaustible body of life and energy. And I remember when I was 7, we moved to the United States, and I moved to the Philadelphia area, and we'd periodically go to the New Jersey shore. It didn't look anything like that. Humans had spent hundreds of years exhausting the marine life off of that coast. And then as I was older, I started going and swimming, like snorkeling in the Florida Keys and various areas along the U.S. And I never, ever witnessed anything like that. And at some point, it struck me as a child that I, in my short lifetime, had already witnessed the sunset of these oceans. It was already disappearing. And I think it was when I was 18 or 19, I went to the Virgin Islands, and I remember I just got my dive certification. And so I was going to get to go finally under. I was going to be Jacques Cousteau and dive and see these amazing reefs. And we're in the British Virgin Islands. And we dropped down, and the reef was brown, covered in algae. There was no life on it. There was hardly any fish. There were no sharks. There were no rays. None of the things I'd witnessed as a child. It was, for all intents and purposes, dead. What I didn't know then is already more than half of, and this is when I was a child, half of the reefs in the Caribbean had died from overfishing and algae and runoff and all the nutrification coming in from farming. And so we had literally already taken this incredible body, the sea, and stripped it down to its bare bones. So there was an awareness for me, actually, that there was something really wrong here. I didn't yet know how to actuate that. I didn't know what I was going to do to be a part of that solution, but I did know that I was going to be in it somehow, some way.
Hey there, Golden Ones. Are you tired of settling for clothes that lack soul, style, and purpose? Well, we've got something for you with One Golden Thread. It's time to upgrade your wardrobe with One Golden Thread, the brand that's redefining fashion and making a positive impact on the planet. I'm Jeff Skult, founder and designer. With One Golden Thread, you're not just buying clothes, you're planting seeds of change. Every purchase contributes to planting a tree, helping to restore our precious environment and create a brighter future for generations to come. And don't take my word for it. Read the reviews. The clothing isn't just stylish, it's versatile and inclusive. Whether you're hitting the gym, meeting friends for coffee, or chilling at home, One Golden Thread's designs effortlessly blend comfort, functionality, and sophistication. But what truly sets us apart is our golden ethos, a commitment to living life to the fullest while embracing regenerosity and connection with the world around us. So why settle for ordinary when you can elevate your style and make a difference? Visit onegoldenthread.com today and join the movement towards a more conscious and golden way of living. One Golden Thread, because life's too short for anything less. And hey, because why not? Here's a first-time checkout love code from me, deeper than anything you will find elsewhere. Drops of Gold. Find your sexy and soulful golden thread self at One Golden Thread. Drops of Gold is your go-to code. Guaranteed you will like it. Try it, buy it, love it. And if you don't, just return it. No questions asked. You are golden. We're all connected as one golden thread.
So your first moment was a moment of awareness of the calamity, of the chaos, of how humanity was pillaging this most beautiful resource, not necessarily like a moment of awe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What is the state of our oceans?
It's pretty scary, actually. There's, well, if you want to even look at some very basic statistics, we've already lost we're moving towards 60% of the coral reefs in the world are already dead across all the oceans now.
Yeah.
And by 2050, they're predicting we would have lost greater than 90% of all the reefs on planet Earth. And when you consider that 25% of all life in the ocean exists on those reefs, when you destroy your home, what happens to that? And over half of the fish that is sustaining communities is coming off of those reefs, which means that's a big problem. We've lost 90% of all the large fish in the ocean in the last 50 years. And that statistic actually is about 20 years old. We're probably at 95% now. So imagine, a school of 20 beautiful sharks. 19 of them are gone now.
Yeah.
Imagine that, like just a little shadow left there, right? We hunted blue whales down to 1% of their original population through industrial whaling. We're very quickly racing towards more pounds of plastic in the ocean than fish. Every single fish now sampled has microplastics and nanoplastics in it. Every human now has plastics in them. We have basically destroyed the substrate. We have polluted the water. We have exhausted the biodiversity. And at the moment, there's very little indication that we're slowing down. In the last few years, we are still fishing harder than we've ever done. Last year, we put more plastic in the ocean than ever before in history. We emitted more carbon into the atmosphere before. So one would say, oh my God, what's the point? Right? Why? We're done. I have to believe that humanity is in its infancy compared to many other species. They say in our modern form, we're less than 100,000 years old. Well, you take the whales, they're 30 million years old. So we're in our childhood. We are not even childhood. We're in our, 1-year-olds. But we have technology and capacity to do incredibly damaging things. We also have incredible capacity to do amazing things. And I think it is in that polarity between what I call our greatest talent, which is empathy, incredibly deep, abstract empathy. We can love and protect something we've never met. We can stand for a forest on the other side of the world. We can rally for a species we'll never swim with, right? We can fight for the rhinos and the elephants, even though we've never been with one. But we can also go out and just ravage an entire ocean and empty it, right? So the capacity within our species is unlike any other species ever on Earth. And in that deep polarity creates spaciousness for something new. And that's where evolution happens. So I think we are in a state of extreme evolution as a species. And we do have some time, not a lot, but we have time to make the changes we need to make. It starts with us inside. There's a wound within us that we really need to look at. And I fundamentally believe there is a societal disease called scarcity. And the entire corporate market has been designed to extract from you resources based on your perceived scarcity. The churches use it, corporations use it, governments use it, that something is not enough with me, so I need to go get more and more and more and more. Who cares how sustainable that is? And so we're preying upon this internal scarcity, and we're trying to fill it with stuff and people and experience. And there is no way when you have a vessel that is leaking out the bottom to fill it enough for it to ever contain a full glass, right? You've got to patch it. You got to fix it. You got to heal it. So the work that we do in sustainable industries such as yours and in my work is creating a deeper sense of enoughness with less and realizing it's a lot more, because the more comes from within you. It's the choice to love yourself, to choose enoughness, and to realize that through this connectivity, which is, I think, the theme that we're talking about here. That story you told was really profound. You can't go out and have enough friends and enough experiences and charge and save enough of the world and still feel enough. Why is that? because there's this false sense of separation, and we were never meant to be that way. We're not even interconnected. That's a poor approximation. That's saying my hand is interconnected with my body. My hand is of my body. My hand is my body, right? You and I are one in soul. And just because we happen to be two different hairs on my arm doesn't make us separate. We're just expressing it as various differences. And so I think the work really lies in remembering we are the whale, remembering we are the reef, we are the ocean, we are the land, we are the deer, we are the air. We are all part of that one beautiful biosphere. And in doing so, there's a different level of perception of our state. Instead of a native state of scarcity, if you look around, we are abundance. Even right here, the life, the plants, all these beautiful people. We are in abundance. We have to remember that. And what does someone who feels in a state of abundance? They become generous. They become loving. They share. So our work is to really do that, is to remind people that we are in that state, and then from that state, all kinds of beautiful things flow.
There's an exhale to take with all that. There's so much to unpack, and certainly I want to dive into even this notion around sustainability, because it's for me a trigger and a hot button for, it's become one of the most greenwashed expressions in the history of language and industry. And so we're going to unpack that. And I wanted to go, so I'm actually, I'm not a cynic, I'm a realist. And so what I also want to do is I want to dive into how do we have this make sense for the broader collective. There's this notion around the human condition, which is scarcity, which is fear, which is greed. You've got the human experience, which is love, which is abundance, which is ascension, and all these things in between. Then the human experience is that dance between the two, and not to see that one is even bad or good or what have you, but just to really embrace it all. So one of the things in terms of the experience I think would be helpful to somebody listening who maybe hasn't dove with the whales or hasn't seen the ocean, is to have it make sense for them, and to touch on, frankly, the human condition, which is selfishness, and to say, like, why should I care what happens under the ocean because I'm an over the ocean being? Because there are real things that are happening as below that impact so above. Yeah. I'd like to unpack that. And we can certainly dive into the plastics, and I'd like to hear you speak to some of the other aspects here, because, it's like, yes, I agree. We protect what we love, and sometimes those things which we haven't even seen. And if that notion starts with, like, protect yourself and understand that we are all part of the same ecosystem, are there things that people should know that are happening from what humanity is contributing in a negative way that are directly impacting their ability to be a healthy being above the ocean?
Beautiful question. Imagine I put you in a room. Imagine this beautiful glass room, okay? Oh. And in the corner, there was this machine, a very simple machine that you had to maintain. And it created oxygen by drawing it in through a pipe and giving you oxygen. And if that machine ceased to work, in 3 minutes you would suffocate and die.
Yeah.
How much energy would you put into keeping that machine running beautifully, maintaining it?
Top shelf.
It'd probably be your top number one job, right?
Yeah.
Well, somewhere between 50 and 70% of the oxygen we breathe comes from the oceans.
Yeah.
So let's just take that for a moment. So let's just say there's that machine doing half to 3/4 of your air, right? You would still think you would do that, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's just one example of a disconnection that people don't realize. The oceans are truly the life support system of our planet.
Oceans and trees.
Much more than trees. And I don't want to diminish the role of trees, but we're talking about the entire weather systems on the planet that drive monsoons, that fertilize and water crops, right? We're talking about the movement of the water that drives weather all around the coasts of the world, affecting multiple billions of people. We're talking about over 2 billion people get their primary protein source from fish in the ocean. Over 500 million people have their livelihoods directly tied to the sea life in the ocean. We're talking 50 to 70% of the oxygen we breathe coming from the ocean. And that's just the beginning. I mean, it is literally the exchange between air, land, and sea that is the most vital part of the lungs and the circulatory system of this planet. Yet, we treat it like a toilet, like a trash can.
Yeah.
We dump everything that we don't care about into it. We take everything out of it that we want and abandon. And it's as if there is an absolute fundamental ignorance about this important system that supports us all. And I look at sort of the enemies of change. I list them on 3 categories. One is ignorance. I don't know. One is apathy. Someone else is going to deal with it. It's not my problem. And then there's greed, which is I don't care. I'm going to get mine. And we are in a world where the large majority of people on this planet still don't even get. They don't even understand how important the ocean is to their livelihood. Every single person depends on the ocean. You don't have to live on a coast to depend on the ocean by what I just said. The apathy part is both deliberate and inadvertent. I think it's deliberate in that industry would prefer that you not worry about it. Externalize the problem. It's not my problem, it's someone else's problem, right? And that prevents people from acting. And then the greed part really is driven by large corporations and industry that have convinced you that sustainable options are being explored. And the word sustainability is a trigger for you. It's a trigger for me. There's so many fisheries that are claiming themselves to be sustainable. And it's hard to imagine when you see what is coming off these boats. In the shrimping industry, 9 out of every 10 pounds of shrimp caught is bycatch. It's other species that get dumped overboard and left to die in the water. Trawlers scrape literally the entire substrate off just for one selected fish. Longliners drop these hundreds of miles of line. One boat could have a 40-mile line with 10,000 hooks on it, and they catch everything in their path, and they just want the tuna. There's enough time. There's enough line in the ocean right now to wrap around the earth 25 times, every single day fishing. Imagine that, right? So we are our fundamental. I'd like to say ignorance, but it's really fundamentally disconnection. That oxygen-producing machine in the corner has been hidden from us. We've been lied about it. We've told ourselves lies about it. And we are now have a full sense of security that somehow that no matter what we do to that little oxygen-producing machine, it'll keep turning it over. One day it won't. But I don't want to wait for that because when we get to that point, we've got a whole different set of problems. So we've got to reestablish that connection. That's what we got to do.
Well, for the first one, in terms of ignorance, is it's an interesting one because that it's okay. I have an expression which means it's okay to not know. It's not okay to not know that you don't know. And so if you don't know, then be curious and ask questions. The second one in terms of apathy. Apathy's an interesting one because it's, do I not care, or have you as industry not been solutionists to give me easy on-ramps for self-enroll? Because I think there's many people who say, well, it's not that I'm not that I don't have empathy. I don't know what to do, and the problem is so big, so I'm just going to continue to do what I can do because I feel a little helpless. And then the greed is an interesting one because, yes, I agree that there is, there's a beautiful, powerful, mantra about let's actually own those fewer things that we love more. And I love that as well. But it's very interesting, when we have industry that is following the path of least resistance, and instead, they're going deeper into the dis-ease. And so let's go there. Let's talk about, industry and solutions that you see, where there's thoughts, words, actions, whether it's, solutions of the cars we're driving, the thoughts we're thinking, the food we're eating, the clothes we're wearing, because this is, I don't believe in activism anymore as being a sole source of the way that things get done, because I believe in proactivism. I don't believe in problemists. I believe in solutionists, because that's the way that we can actually give people easy on-ramps for self-enroll. So I'd love to hear you talk about that. Maybe we could even start by just, maybe we could just go there first and talk about sustainability, because it's such a trigger point for me, and it sounds like for you as well. I mean, maybe I'll ask you, since you brought up sustainable solutions, I'll ask you, what does sustainability mean?
It's a great question. At this point in my life, I've become really confused. The amount of products and solutions that are being purported to be sustainable. I have looked, for example, I've been to ports where they have these certified, Marine Stewardship Council is the number one body that certifies fisheries as sustainable. When they initiated the program, after 3 years, they hadn't certified a single fishery. So what did they do to solve that problem? They brought down the standards. They dropped the standards to wedge more companies in because they needed sustainable fisheries. And suddenly all kinds of companies were being certified. And more importantly, you got to buy your certification. You had to pay for someone to come out, and you paid for your certification. So more and more it became an economic model to create the appearance of sustainable. And in one of those fisheries, they catch 3 sharks for every swordfish. And those sharks aren't part of the fishery. And that is a certified sustainable fishery in Canada. And you're like, how is that even? Could you imagine if you went out hunting and you shot 3 elephants for every gazelle, and they said that was a sustainable hunting program, and all the elephants were just left to die on the, everyone would be like, that's insane. Yeah. But that is the level of what we're calling sustainable. And so we have these fisheries that are all being certified as sustainable. One of the things that I've observed is you see these sustainable seafood cards. And there's like green, which is sustainable, yellow, which is keep a close eye on, and red is unsustainable. If you track a lot of the species over time, they do this beautiful migration, which is not so beautiful. They start green, they move to yellow, and then they end up red. And I'm like, well, then how is that sustainable? That's more like a forecast says it's not going to snow till tomorrow, so it's not going to snow. No, it's just going to snow tomorrow. So don't say there's no snow in the forecast. Sustainability has to have a timeline associated with it. And our human attention span is like a sliver. Our now is just, and so we call it sustainable in this very moment. And there's a concept in fisheries called maximum sustainable yield, which is used to measure sustainability. And what does that mean? It means how many can I extract? How much of that population can I extract before it starts to plummet, drop down? It says nothing about what it was and what it needs to be to the system. It just says, how hard can I fish it before it collapses? And that's the level to which you measure sustainable. Well, if we applied that to humanity, there wouldn't be many humans left on Earth, right? Because humans can reproduce. And we would have all kinds of atrocities happening on a legal standpoint. But we don't apply that measure to us. We apply it to all the species. So I think sustainability has been a hijacked term by industry. It's just a beautiful greenwash term by most of industry. You have salmon industries that are now polluting entire coastal ways and sickening all the wild salmon because it's sustainable farm-raised salmon. And these are diseased, sick, genetically modified fish that are getting dumped with vats of antibiotics just to keep them alive that are now killing off entire rivers and systems of wild animals. So I don't really love the word sustainable because of that. I think it doesn't really hold water with me anymore. I think we have to go way beyond that to what level of action are we doing to replenish, restore, that feels way more in alignment for me.
Thank you. And we're so aligned. Rewind the clock to 2016 when I started my journey with One Golden Thread, and I was so honored to be invited to the Global Sustainability Conference in Copenhagen. That's where I was going to learn all the incredibleness, and then I went to the UN after that for the Global Sustainability Goals, and it's just, I came back from both of those emptied.
Yeah.
And feeling like that truck going by right now. I was such a loud, vociferous fuck no. Like, where are our standards? It's like if you sent your kid to college, to school for the first time in second grade, and you said, Johnny, go get yourself a C average. We just want you to maintain. Sustainability is ostensibly, at best,
an F, actually. It's failing.
It's failing.
Yeah.
It's at best maintainability, which, guess what, is an impossibility.
Yeah.
It is impossible to sustain because we as humans will always take more than we want. It's an all-you-can-eat buffet, this thing called life.
Mm.
It's an impossibility, and anything that humanity cannot uniformly define. You put 100 people in a room and you're going to get 100 different vague definitions, and somebody's going to say something about plastic straws.
Yep.
So, coming out of that Global Sustainability Conference, I was like, this is, we have the wrong beacon. Mm. We have a beacon that is going to take us to the bottom. And we can look back at regenerative farming, regenerative food systems, and apply those to industry, apply those to our life. How do we leave something better than we found it?
Yeah.
How do we actually, as industry, give back more than it takes to create? And that became, in 2016, a beacon for One Golden Thread. From one beech tree, we can make 108 tree shirts. And for every tree shirt sold, we plant a tree. Yeah. So at impact, it's actually 1 to 108x. Now that's a model we can all get behind. This is not new. None of this is new. It's just going back to what is true.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the UN, which I thought was going to be the most inspiring day of my life. To be able to sit in the room and hear these leaders talk about the global sustainability goals. And frankly, I'll just call it out. What I saw was a bunch of old white men almost like tapping into the patriarchy and giving some lip service to the 17 global sustainability goals. I'm like, well, no, blow that up. Let's talk about the global regenerative goals. Mm. Let's apply every one of those 17 principles to how can we give back more than it takes to create. Because remember, you cannot get every human on board. This is not everybody on board. This is not one soup. It's every one by one by one. We each get to choose to step in. And that, to me, is the most beautiful expression. And that's what I love with honor of what we're doing, because, of what we're all doing. And for me, the contribution around touching the void of among the most polluting, people pillaging, nature, bottom feeding, industries in clothing. So let's go there and let's talk about one of those other things in terms of that second thing that you spoke about apathy. Well, I believe we can take every one of those negatives in terms of what's the problem, in terms of ignorance. Well, that's information, that's knowledge, that's wisdom. Let's go there. Apathy. Let's give people easy on-ramps for self-enroll. Right? Yeah. And then greed. It's like, let's give people things that they love so much that they want to wear it every day, eat it with consistency, and do those things, and give people better products, better solutions that have the right grounding, foundational metrics and models and values and vibrations, right? and give people those abilities to say like, wow, I feel when I put that in my mouth. I feel when I have 4 million receptors on my body and I put these clothing on that touches me, because I'm not just attached to the mission and the regeneration and the way that it feels, but also when I look in the mirror, I get to see myself as myself. So I'd love to hear you talk about what you're seeing in the world. And yes, certainly I know how you feel about One Golden Thread, and I'm deeply touched, but you can share everything and anything. I mean, by the way, we just had a ninja smoothie today. That was amazing. So I know you're a holistic being. And so take us on a journey into the world of what you see of that curated life.
Yeah, that's a really, it's the question about how do we drive change. Change is not something that happens in this one profound moment. We see it as that sometimes. We see that one vote that comes down, the gavel comes down, the election is won. You know, the touchdown is scored, right, on the final minutes. Yeah. And you watch the game, if that's what people watch. I watched my first football game in 10 years.
Go Blue. Mort Skull.
I don't know any of the players, but it was interesting to see, even if you watch a game. Yeah. The game wasn't won in the touchdown that happened. The game was won in every step that started years before. That led to the plays, that led to the moves, that led to the scores, that led to all the things that finally led to the clock being run down and the game being won. Yeah. In our lives, change happens with the small decisions. Yeah. Every single moment we're making a choice about something important. And generally, as physical beings on this planet, we consume things, we dispose of things, and we use energy in the process. Think about that. Every single human on earth does those three things: consume, dispose, and use energy in the process. So the question is, how mindful are you about those choices? And how much do those choices nourish you or deplete you? Nourish the environment or deplete the environment? Nourish your community or deplete your community? So I think it really begins with making choices in your life that are going to serve you, good for you, good for the planet. And things like those, I think there's a few that are fundamental to our daily lives. One of them is what you eat. Another one is what you wear. If you think about the levels of contact that you have on a daily basis with the most humans in your life, right? Yeah. They witness you in those two contexts every single day. There's a lot of other things you do that they don't witness, but they do witness those two things. And think about what the statement you make, the choices you make. Are you a conscious eater? Do you think about the fact that that burger took 8,000 gallons of water to feed the meat on that cow versus a quarter gallon for something that's plant-based in a world that's running out of fresh water? Did you think about that? Do you think about the fact that the meat you're consuming is the largest contributor to global warming, and that if we just addressed that one issue, we would not have a climate crisis? People said, well, how do we fix it? It's far more than the entire transportation district. Imagine all the airplanes, all the buses, all the cars, everything that moves people. And the meat industry produces more carbon than all of them combined. So what if we change just that? And every single human on earth has the opportunity to contribute to that solution. And there's all kinds of things about my protein and but you then see the studies on heart disease, and you go down the list and you start to realize there's an entire industry that is built around you consuming products that are not good for you and not good for the planet because there's greed involved. The clothing industry is another one, fast fashion. Fast fashion is destroying this planet. Not only is it one of the largest slavery industries in the world, where we outsource our manufacturing to countries where you need small children with small hands to fix small buttons to things that'll be worn 3 times and then thrown away. But the products, the chemicals that are used in these products are being flushed and drained out into rivers that are destroying entire forest basins and destroying coastal reef systems. The people who are working in them are being poisoned. The people who are wearing them are being poisoned. And then when you wash these plastic petroleum-based products, they shed microplastics and nanoplastics that go into the streams, that go into the rivers, that go into the ocean, and they become part of the bodies of fish that then are consumed by humans. It's even in the clouds now, nanoplastics. Like, humans are becoming made of plastic. So these small decisions where we vote with our wallets and we vote with our the stand we take in our communities are making the biggest impact on the planet right now. So what if we shifted that model and said, instead of having new clothes every month for off the sale rack or where, even the expensive clothes, I was going to have less, but each one I was going to treasure and care for. And I was going to know that it contributed to the planet in a really beautiful way. It actually added more back. And it didn't have the shedding problems, and it didn't have an industry, a slavery industry attached to it. I think there's the energetics of that decision alone that changed you as a physical human being. We are energy beings and we're all connected. When I eat an animal that has suffered in a factory farm, I believe I'm taking on that energy. I believe I'm taking on the energy of that animal.
2 seconds.
I was going to say just keep going because you're in the middle of the
Oh, cool.
stream.
Go.
Yeah.
When you consume an animal that was raised in a factory farm and suffered its entire life, you take on the energy of that animal. It becomes part of your physiology. I also think there's a strong probability that if you're wearing garments that were built by slave labor, made from petroleum that was ripped out of a forest, or strip mined off the tar sands in Canada, right? Just leveling boreal forests, you're taking that energy on too. And especially if that very fabric is then going back and poisoning the life support system of our planet. So what about those small choices? Yeah. Imagine if 1,000, 100,000, 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, or 1 billion people began making choices on that level. How would that affect our planet and where we are today?
The most powerful lesson I learned in business, I learned when I was in 2nd grade, and I forgot for 50 years. And I learned that lesson in 2nd grade from my dog Sam and my dad. Sam was sick and needed to he had worms, and as dogs do, and he had to take a pill. Mm. And so my dad asks me, never missing a teaching moment, he says, "Jeff, we have to give Sam a pill. How do you think we should give it to him?" I said, "Oh, we'll just put it in his mouth." No. Dogs don't like to swallow a pill. I said, "Oh, I'm thinking like, we'll hide it in his food." I said, "Well, that's a great thought, but dogs are smart, and they'll feel it. They'll feel your, they'll spit it out." And my dad said, "Go get some peanut butter. When you wrap a pill in something sweet, the dog will swallow it all day long." And so what I realized is like when I started One Golden Thread, I was so focused on like wanting to educate people on the problem, and knowledge, and the microplastics and the nanoplastics and the this is and the that. And I'll be honest with you, it was like a fart in church. Nobody was really, my friends, tried on the tree shirt and they loved it and they wore it, but they were wearing it because they just loved it. And yes, certainly some people were wearing it because of the story behind the goodness. But what I realized was that what we were doing was we were wrapping a big problem in something sweet. And the moment that we were just focusing on making a better product that touched people, that allowed people to look and feel as good as they are, that was made with love, by love, for love, and just sharing that story and allowing people to meet on that set too, meet on that bridge, that benevolent bridge where they're just like, I love it. And then they could talk about, and it plants a tree, and it's unfucking fast fashion, and it's all these things. But it starts with just looking good, feeling good, and yes, doing good. And so what I realized is that we can appeal to whatever doorway people want to come through. And because, I have this philosophy about change. Within change, oftentimes is ladled with blame, self-blame, and some shame about I've been operating in a certain way that is maybe not good for something else, not good for community, not good for the planet, not good even for myself. And so to change suggests that I'm less than. To reveal suggests that we are yes and. It's almost like, it's who we already are. It's coming back to that golden essence. I truly believe that we're all born golden, and then we can forget, and we can remember, and we can release those stuck stories. And we can reveal who we are anew. And within that, we can replenish, we can regenerate, we can restore. And that's the regenerosity. That's the regeneration. And so that feeling, that vibration, that is something that I've come to believe is the deliciousness of consciousness, as opposed to almost like shaming people into consciousness. And so that's what I'm honored that we're creating. And even that, going back to that lesson with Sam, that I learned in second grade, it's like, we're just wrapping a big problem in something golden and something delicious. So, I'd love to hear you. I mean, you're obviously wearing the threads, and I guess this is a moment of a prideful reflection. I'd love for you to share, because this is what you've said about unfucking fast fashion and is powerful. And there's energy. There's codes in clothes when it's made in certain ways. And clothes, let's just also be honest. Clothes that are synthetic, ironically enough, close us off from feeling.
Yeah.
Instead of opening us up to revealing. So, I'm opening reflections as somebody who's a deep feeling human being of what you're feeling. What's the feeling of the feeling?
When I drop into the ocean, I like to be as minimal as possible with what I'm wearing. I like to feel the water, the salt water on my skin. I like to feel the sun on my back as I enter that water and feel the transition of temperature. It's like an initiation that happens in that moment. And the more I'm layered up and closed up, the more I feel that separation between me and that incredible biosphere that I'm dropping into, the ocean biosphere. Yeah. I think clothing is very similar. Like many clothes, especially more synthetic clothing, is like, it's almost like armor. There's the external world, there's the air, there's nature, and then there's this barrier, almost like it is plastic. Imagine wrapping yourself in saran wrap, right? And then you. And there's a separation you feel in that. And when I'm out in nature, I want to feel the air. I want to feel the sun. I want to feel the breeze. I want to feel all that. And I also want to feel my respiration of my body, thermal respiration happening. I want to feel some level of exchange. What I noticed when I was down on Venice Beach yesterday meditating, and we all sat there and the waves were coming in and out, and you could feel the vibration through the sand and the rumble of the water as it came splashing up on the beach and then draining through the sand molecules. I could feel that in my hands and my body, and I was wrapped in one of the shawls, just cozied up.
Duster.
The duster, learning the terminology here. I was wrapped in that, and it's not that thick. And it's not made of windstop. It's not made of anything. It's just pure natural fabric, right? It's beautiful. And normally what happens is where my skin makes contact with the air, I can feel the vibration, and then it stops beyond that. But as I raised my arm, I could feel it moving, like almost like beads trickling down. I could feel it all down the skin of my body, through the fabric and under the fabric. And there was this beautiful exchange happening. And I had not experienced, honestly, I've not experienced that with other clothing. There was an aliveness. There was an energetic exchange that was happening in a very palpable way. And it felt like there was no disconnection. I was in full connection, full relation to the system. And there's something in that spoke to me and said, we don't want to wear armor. We want to wear like breathability. We want to respirate as a species, right? And if you look at the coats of other animals, they're designed to let energy in and out. You know, a cat uses its hair to move and sense its environment, right? There's a sensory nature to it that I feel in this clothing. And it's real. And at first I was like, wow, it feels really good. But it's not feeling in the sense of isolation. There's a connectivity that I feel within it that makes my body feel more alive and more palpably connected to my ecosystem.
Thank you for that reflection. You know, my mother was an artist, and I remember one of the very first things I wrote when I was like 11 years old was "Starving artists no more," as a mantra, as a gift for artists. And I think we're all artists. You know, we're all we all have a golden gift to share, and your gift to share is bringing us closer into connection with as below, so above, and seeing those two things that inextricably aligned. And one of the things that, in memory of my mother, that's been a beautiful part of this journey is collaboration, true collaboration. And so one of the things, meeting you, by the way, shout out to Samuel J., who brought us together.
Love that, brother.
Love that silly sacred Sam brother.
Amazing
human. Listen to his music, by the way, everyone. It's healing, it's revealing, it's loving, lifting, gifting.
Truly.
Was the invitation to say, would you like to make your art wearable? And that was to see the awe-inspiring nature. I think you just put a period on that. But the awe-inspiring nature of your photography, it's nothing short of allowing us to see into the mirror of the deepest depths of our highest souls. So as we were looking through your images with that invitation, you brought up one image, and it's called Manta in Rays. And I'd love for you to take us back to that moment in Isla Mujeres and the Azul, and tell us what led to that moment, and then we'll share, what that led to in terms of the co-creation.
We're now dropping into my passion. I have a statement which is, art is my passion, conservation is my purpose, and for me the two are inseparable.
Is that Shawnspiration?
Sure, that's inspiration.
Inspiration.
We can keep going there. So yeah, it's the joining of purpose and art, right? Art in the passion form, purpose in the conservation form. But really, when I get a chance to just drop into my art, which is using the camera as my paintbrush, and then out there in the canvas of the ocean, painting with it, and coming back with something really precious, something that I feel connected me in a very visceral, very emotional, very spiritual way to that experience. And then bringing that back to community, and then providing that image in a context where people not only see what I saw and even maybe experience it on a certain level, I want them to feel what I felt. Emotionally shifting something within them, dislodging some resistance, opening some portal to something new, curiosity, inspiration, connection. Ultimately, that deep connection leading to we protect what we love, right? In Isla Mujeres, I've been going there now for 15 years, and there's an aggregation of whale sharks in this beautiful, gin-clear Caribbean water that happens every year in the summer. And when I first started going there, we were pioneers in terms of locating it, because it was out in the 10 miles off the coast, and then swimming with these incredible animals, and then helping foster a community that was the largest shark fishing island on all of the east coast of Mexico, which has now become the largest shark tourism destination in all of Mexico. And 80 to 90% of the shark fishermen are now working in the tourism industry instead. So a huge livelihood shift in just one generation of fishermen in 10 years. And that was the driving force behind it. But underneath it was this incredible beauty. Imagine hundreds of whale sharks plowing their way on the surface through this beautiful blue water. And every so often, they get joined by the other great filter feeder, the manta ray. Now imagine these animals are 10 to 15 feet across. No stinger, no teeth, completely harmless, but magnificent, beautiful animals soaring through the depths. And then they would rise up and they start to do these barrel rolls on the surface, feeding on plankton and other food. And then they'd move along in these like trains of 10, 15, sometimes 20 manta rays. And it's an incredible sight to behold. However, on some days when the water is particularly clear and the sun is right overhead, you get this incredible pin cushioning effect that when you look down into the depths, all light rays converge right below you, wherever you are. So it's as if you're held and suspended in this beautiful plane between outer space and inner space. And so imagine those polarities, and you're right on the surface there. And up in there is the starlight, the sunlight pouring down like this, and then it pin cushions beyond. You're in the middle of that pendulum, just suspended. And I remember looking down into that blue, and these light rays are all bending because light bends at 30 degrees underwater. So wherever your perspective is, eventually it converges. And I saw these manta rays swimming down there. And it hit me, oh my God. Here you have this incredible creature, which it's my spirit animal in the ocean. And it stands for deep, 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 literally deep vulnerability. These animals will literally approach you and brush you with their wingtips and look you in the eye and spiral with you. And I've had them swim with me for hours. And they have no reason to trust me. But they choose vulnerability even when it's scary. They choose vulnerability when they have every reason not to, when we've talked about all the things we've done to their habitat and we've targeted their species and they've been caught in our nets and our lines and our spears. Yet they show up and they choose vulnerability. And they're incredibly powerful animals. So it's the empowerment. The greatest power I think we have is in our deepest vulnerability. That is where our deepest power comes from. So to witness in this one setting the deep, majestical power of this immensely vulnerable being, that was a story I needed to tell. And so I remember swimming around, tracking this group of manta rays, and then one swerved off and it started circling. And I have to be literally within an inch of it right beneath to get that perfect pincushion, because that's how much slight movement, and it's not in the light rays properly. And I remember that moment where it finally turned, paused, and I just went click. And I just looked at the back of my camera and I was like, oh my God, that's it. That is manta in rays. That is the symbol of the power of vulnerability. It was a sacred, sacred, sacred moment for me. Here we go.
Let's
there it is. Wow. If that isn't a flag of ocean empowerment, right? The light rays bursting from beneath this angel of the sea, right? Celestial being. That is something really special.
It's a flag as well of a remembrance of the power of humanity, that within our vulnerability we can access our greatest strength.
Yeah.
So this is an honor to create the Ray Wrap with Shawn, and this is like all things, one golden thread. Not just going to plant a tree, but a percentage of proceeds is also going to go to support your foundation. Only one.
It's a really important thing.
Which is about protecting the ocean.
It's one of those things where so many people ask me, what can I do that feels like I'm making a difference? And what can we do that feels like we collectively are making a difference to the issue itself, the larger issue.
Yeah.
And to have a foundation now, a powerful foundation. I have 25 people in our foundation. They're all working day and night to restore the health and abundance of our oceans, answering those two questions. What can I do individually that feels like I am personally making a difference? And what can we collectively as a system do to move the needle on the bigger issue?
Yeah.
And this is the first time, by the way, I've ever offered an image for commercial printing, ever, for the very reasons that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
I haven't felt good about that type of monetization in any sense because I didn't believe in those processes. But when you and I spoke, and having now already become familiar with your clothing and the integrity behind it and the message behind it and the intentionality of it, it wasn't even a slow question. It has nothing to do with monetary.
Yeah.
It's an avenue to awaken another community in a whole new way and bring this message to them. That's the only reason I'm doing it. It feels right. And when it feels right, it's a fuck yes.
It's a yes, fuck yes. Well, this is an honor and it's a blessing and it just looks also incredible to wear every which way. Throw it on your bed, throw it on the beach, turn it into it. We had a beautiful soul wearing it last night as a dress. It's all the things in between, and it becomes something that becomes part of you. So I'm excited to share this with the world, and it's going to be. It already is. It will be. Before we close, and I have a rogue thought of how we're going to close this, which is coming into coherence right now. I'd love to just do like a little flash round of like the did you knows for Shawn Heinrichs, of the things that people know. We get labeled. I get labeled as like, oh, that's one golden thread. That's the fashion guy. Well, there's a lot more to Jeff Skoldt. And as I'm learning about Shawn Heinrichs, there's a lot more joy that comes from this guy. And so let's just run through some quick did you knows that are part of your beautiful tapestry of who you are. You could talk about, we could talk about massage. We could talk about ninja. We can talk about smoothie. Just some of these little delicious fun facts that when you're in the sphere of this guy, of this human, and also if you're not in this sphere, things that you can take with you to be a better version of you.
I have a fundamental belief that how we live parts of our life is how we live all of our life. Mm-hmm. So be conscious in all your choices. And as a result, for the last 6-7 years, I've been plant-based. I was vegetarian for about 17 years. And that's just a conscious choice from an environmental standpoint, a health standpoint, and from a social and responsibility standpoint. I also believe in healthy mind, body, spirit. And so physicality is a big part to me. I meditate every single day. I'm an American Ninja Warrior. I train in the ninja gym with incredibly talented young ninjas. Both my daughters have competed on American Ninja Warrior. I'm so proud of them. They're incredible. They're inspirations to me. I believe in the power of energy. And so I'm very conscious in terms of how we exchange energy, but it's also a really powerful healing tool. And the power of hands and touch. We can do a lot with that. And I also believe in the power of community and connectivity. And so a lot of my effort is now into fostering community, connecting the fabric of our society so that we weave all the one golden threads in together. And the list goes on. I'm passionate about the oceans. I think most people know that. Probably what they don't understand is I don't think of myself as a photographer or a filmmaker. And yes, I have the awards, and yes, I have the accolades, and I have the track record. I look at myself as a being operating collectively in a system, and my contribution through my art and my purpose is just my contribution. But my connectivity to that system and to everyone else is far more important than that. It is the resonance. It's the frequency that we all share. So maybe more than anything, the more I clear my channel, the more I become that conduit for that message, the message, the song. The less I am me, the more I am we. I think that's the person I'm most proud of. That transparent conduit, the one who is seeking to bring forward what I believe is the more important message of our time and all time. That unification, that connectivity, that shared mission, that shared course, that alliance that we can all bring together in creating abundance, true, honest abundance, authentic abundance, lack of scarcity, fullness, kindness, love, warmth, connectivity. So if the person that I want people to see the most, that's that person, the person who cares about that more than anything.
We feel it. There's a drops of gold that will be in the book that I'm writing, which is we go over me, we go over me, ego. So you're living it. You're about the collective we that allows us to feel free in the seas and everything in between. So we feel you, we see you, we are you. The way that One Golden Thread started was before there was clothing or even a golden thread, where I went around the world and tied golden threads in people's wrists, was a Humanifesto. I don't think you've ever received it, but there's a I may just share a few excerpts of it, because it's feeling like there's so many themes that we've discussed, and there's also some allegory around the seas. So I wasn't intending to share this, but it feels right. So it's around 4 minutes and 44 seconds if you want to just receive. And it really starts by the remembrance. I'm just going to start with the second verse, because right now we get to choose freedom and liberation from fear. To swim in our dark with open eyes, years of fears rise to wisdom sparked from our open hearts. Right now we get to choose. Every time we choose love, kindness, and soul, our inner ego shines as our quiet hero. Our river, our life flows, letting go. Pain to pleasure, imagine failure, euphoric once again. Chasing the light, lost in the dark. This day we get to choose to receive those highs and lows as illusions just the same. Our past stories that self-judge and criticize, we now see the truth that they were lies in disguise. In this and each and every moment, we get to choose our current experience as the master guide of our why. We come back to just 5 simple words. Love yourself, embrace thy shadow. I now allow myself to see and be seen. Thus, I see you and you see me. Our minds unlocked, our hearts unblocked, our voice reclaimed. Those 3 keys released. The alchemist search for answers and others may cease, opening me and we to just be free. And within that golden vibe, we know our lighthouse shines from inside. And when we stray from our way, the gift of our birth is returned grateful from our inner nature and the green and blue grace of our seas and Mother Earth. This tribe, it's all one tribe, open, unified, electrified, a planetary magic carpet ride. Outrageously courageous, we are ready for this, right here, right now, moment in time. Our self-love invites and ignites a shared love. Whatever your chosen energy source, feel that beacon course through you as your life force.
This emotion is our devotion in motion. I love the way we love. We live to love and we love to live. Awake in the chance. And when we stumble, perfectly imperfect, we make it part of our dance. In our world, we are surrendered to love. We trust the trust because it resides inside us, amplifying all around us. The love that you are is the love that we are. We are all golden, better connected as one golden thread. So lead with love, feel joyful, be curious, adventure, always to discover, embracing all of our lives as playful lovers. That was like a deep resonance of me coming back in the coherence with like the remembrance of who I always was that I forgot. And letting go of even like this notion of like, you know, fear is not the enemy, it's our resistance to fear. Yeah. It's the enemy. And that's when we could swim in our dark with open eyes and years of fears can rise to wisdom. So I desire to complete this beautiful sit with you taking us a hero's journey. And specifically what's coming through. And we all know, or for those that, you know, have heard of the hero's journey, and what is really the hero's journey? The hero's journey is that beautiful architecture. It's almost like Buckminster Fuller that Joseph Campbell taught us that for the hero to go on a journey, there are setbacks, there are fallbacks, then there's step forwards, and there's leaps, and then there's this motion that we feel like we become the ocean, right? So the hero's journey is this catalyzing force forward, and I'd love to invite you to take us on this infinite now chapter of the hero's journey, and you can take us there as we become the whale. Maybe a little 3-minute and 33-second or what have you journey. And for those with us in this moment, pull the car over.
Don't crash.
Don't crash. Close your eyes.
Yeah.
And receive the blessing of becoming the whale.
Beautiful.
If that feels good for you.
It always feels good. Yes. If you have the capacity, probably this is a good time to close your eyes. And collectively, let's just let out the air, whatever's in our lungs at the moment. Drawing softly through your nose, fill your lungs. Hold it for a moment. And then as you release it, let it whisper between your lips. And as if you're sitting on a beach, feel that air like water washing through the sand grains out into the sea. Look out at the tide, and then you feel that next wave coming in on the inhale, breathing in. And that wave washes right up to your toes, and you pause and hold it. And on the exhale, you see that water again draining out through all the billions of particles of sand. Just take another deep breath in, bringing it in slowly, effortlessly, feeling it through your nose, feeling the wave wash right up on that beach, splashing your legs, your body. And then as you release it, all the grains washing around your legs into the water, beautifully clear. And as you inhale again, that wave comes in, and you can feel the sun on your body. You can feel the texture of the sand beneath you. You can feel the water lapping along your skin, and then as it retreats, you feel the water pulling on you, and you feel the air on your surface of your skin cooled by that water, and the sound, the shh of the water going through the grains. Continuing to inhale and exhale slowly. Tune into the seabirds drifting effortlessly across the surface of the waves. Perhaps there's dolphins leaping out there. Maybe even the sound of a whale blowing. And you, part of that system, nothing to worry about, nothing to hold on to. Breathing in that saltwater air, cleansing your entire body. Exhaling, releasing that air, cleansing further, releasing whatever you're holding on to, drifting off with that water as it washes out into the tide. And then as you take that next inhale, you feel your body rise right into that water. On your back, floating motionless. You can feel the sun on your face, feel the cool water beneath your back, and that wave pulls you out gently out into the gentle, calm ocean day. Kelp beneath your back, sea lions around you, dolphins dancing, an entire ecosystem of which you are now a part of. Your breath in draws you closer. Your exhale allows you to sink deeper. Inhaling, you drift beneath the surface. Exhaling, you feel your body suspended effortlessly, nothing to hold on to. And here you are in this beautiful ocean, sea life abounding, the sharks, the rays, the turtles, all curious of this being that's now become yet again remembering that they are in the system. They are the system. And on that next inhale, you feel your energy in your hands and your feet and your toes and your entire body expanding outward. And you're drawn out into the deep, deep blue. And on that exhale, floating, motionless, you witness this gentle being approaching you. It's a mother whale. She circles. She comes in close, curious for a look. Your inhale drawing her closer. Your exhale letting go of any resistance to her presence. You see her body, her shape, her size, but more than anything, you notice her eyes. Deep, dark windows into that ancient soul, carrier of wisdom, tens of millions of years of lineage, and tens of millions to come. A multidimensional being here with you in this moment, sharing that dimensionality with you. And rather than separate, as you breathe in, you breathe her into your entire being. And as you exhale, any illusion of separation between you and this whale dissipates. You drift right into that beautiful dark soul window. And being enveloped in the darkness, you find a light inside, a light brighter than you've ever witnessed before. And what you witness now is you're looking out through her eyes into that ocean. And you see your baby humpback whale. You see all the other sea life. You see the system. But maybe see isn't the right word. You feel the system. You feel the integrated nature of your being as the being, a singular being. You breathe that in. And you breathe that out. Breathing in life, exhaling any resistance. And as you inhale, that spaciousness grows, no longer confined to the whale. You become the plankton, you become the system, you become the water. And on that exhale, you feel the energetic frequency of all life, every being moving in perfect harmony. Chaos, but in order. And the thing that is binding you and all of it is this inextricable, undeniable, palpable, nourishing, healing feeling of love. Absolute, unconditional love. You feel more full, more complete. You feel absolutely healed. You feel connected to all your lineage and all lineage. You feel the oneness of it. and you're grateful. You're grateful for this now, the infinite now, for knowing, for remembering. And in this moment, you commit to live this way each day, every day, all days, all lives, eternity, in this state of absolute oneness. And you breathe that in, your entire body now vibrating with that frequency. And on the exhale, you reintegrate into this physical being, this moment where the universe gets to experience itself in your singularity, that apparent singularity that is always unity. And you honor and celebrate it and commit in this moment to use this physical instrument as a tool, as a machine of love and care and compassion and healing, to be the change you wish to see in the world, to light that candle in the darkness, to heal the wound, and to be that love that you've always wished to receive, to give it in abundance forever. Oh.
Shawn Heinrichs, you are drops of gold. Thank you for being such a light in the darkness of the depths of some of the things that you've seen in the sea, and continuing to stay in the light and be the light and show us how to discover our own light. It's powerful, it's palpable. It is truly a gift to receive from you, and thank you for being a badassador of living and swimming life golden. And it's an honor to co-create with you. It's an honor to share you with our community and merge communities, because we are all one human community. Only one is Shawn Heinrichs Foundation. Excited to share and make your art wearable and tactile and delicious and with the world. And just to have a little fun in completion, we're gonna create a code, a special code for you.
Yes.
And of course, it's gonna be a takeoff on your name. So give us 11 or 10.8 or 3 or whatever that comes through, puns that run and swims with your beautiful name. And we got inspiration, we got conservation, Shawn. What do we got?
Devotion in loving motion, lathering me in ocean lotion. What a notion. Even in this conversation.
Pick one for your badass or OGT code.
Let's just make it Ocean. OSHAWN.
Oh, Shawn. And so it is. We complete every drops of gold with our co-spirator giving the auditory sound of whatever the sound is of the golden mic drop.
The auditory sound?
Of the golden mic drop. And so it is. Oh, Shawn, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, brother.
You're a man. You're the man, Jeff. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for being such a beautiful human.
Oh, we are.
Okay, Golden Ones, thank you for being on this episode of Drops of Gold. The special code for you as a reminder is Drops of Gold at checkout for one golden thread. 22% off, gift off purchase, your threads. Enjoy your journey. You are golden, and we are all connected as one golden thread. Enjoy your threads.
Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being with us on Drops of Gold. Produced by Mark Shapiro and Josh Robertson. Music by Josh Robertson and Shazier. I'm your host, Jeff Skult. And remember, in this moment and this moment's forward, remember to always pull on your golden thread and find your truth in this now reality. Thank you for being with us. You are golden. Enjoy your journey.